Everybody, good evening. It's Ellen Lewis at Crazy for You, and I am so excited to have you here at this episode of our podcast because tonight I have the incredibly wonderful and lovely and talented Tanis Gray joining me. If you have not heard, and I don't know how it could possibly be that you haven't heard, but Tanis's latest book, Star Wars Knitting the Galaxy, hit the newsstands or the streets or the bookstores or the yarn stores yesterday. Yeah, Tuesday. So super excited about that. We had pre-ordered it and had been in the shop for a little bit and we sent those out. So I'm so excited. The patterns are up on Ravelry. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have Tanis here to talk about her book and the projects in it. So let me go ahead and bring her on. Hi, Gwen. I'm glad you could be here. Hey, Tanis.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad you're here.
I miss you in person. You're very nice 2D, but I miss you in a three-dimensional form.
I miss you too, sweetie. It won't be long. You know, everybody's getting their vaccines and all things are good. Yep. So we have a couple folks that bought the book and are very excited. So Jal and Jennifer are here. So everybody's looking forward to seeing. Yes, so wonderful. So this has been like the most exciting week, huh?
It has. Yeah, it's nice to have some good news for a change. It's very exciting. You know, I was saying, we were talking a little bit before, you're kind of sitting on this secret and then you're allowed to kind of release the cover and talk a little bit about it, but you can't really get super detailed. So it's really nice to people to enjoy the patterns and to talk about it and, you know, see it on social media and see people enjoying it. And, you know, that's always the end goal. You just want to bring some joy to your fellow knitters. So it seems to be doing that, which is, I have so much, you know, gratitude for being able to put this out and to have people enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it totally is. And I think that's one of the things that makes your work so very special is, I mean, it's clear that your goal is to make people happy.
Yeah, we call you some happiness. And, you know, it's cool to be a nerd. I've always been a nerd. So I'm happy that I finally have a use for that.
You know, you say like that's a bad thing. I mean,
you know, it is when you're 11 years old, right? But now, you know, I made a career out of being a nerd. So
that's not exactly the word that comes to mind when I think of you, Tanis. I think wildly creative, imaginative, lovely, prolific, nerd. That's not the word that comes to mind. But hey, I have a lot of kids that are nerds, and it's all good, you know. So this must have, you know, the whole concept of like the official, you know, there have been a lot of books and patterns and stuff out there that are, you know, Star Wars inspired, but, you know, you're the official one. So what was that like? And was it hard to get that kind of inside scoop?
Well, not really, since I had done the Harry Potter one, you know, and Star Wars is my 11th book. So I have some street cred, which is good. And, you know, I think if I was in their position, I would want someone who really, you know, didn't need their hand held and who you would feel like you would get a good result out of it. So I felt like Harry Potter, the one that came out last year, was almost like an audition. It's the same publisher. So, you know, we made a list before we even did the Harry Potter one of all the books we would like to do. And, you know, it's 20 pages long of all the projects we want to do. And Star Wars was very high up on that list. So I was excited before Harry Potter even came out, we had started Star Wars. So it's nice for it to be here now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your favorite Star Wars movie? And hey, gang, tell me in the comments, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Of the original 9 we're talking about, none of the spin-offs, right?
Right.
Yeah, because the book is based on the original 9. I love The Empire Strikes Back. It's my favorite one. I feel like you learn a lot and so many more questions are asked. And, you know, he goes to Dagobah. It's just it's my favorite one. So we have the Leia Hoth snow vest, and that was probably the first thing I put on my list of things I wanted in this book because that is my favorite episode. So how
The
about you?
snow
Do you have a favorite?
I don't. I mean, I love them all. I love episode 1. I know it was really bad, but I have a real soft spot in my heart because my daughter Elizabeth, God, she was what 7 years old. She wanted to be Queen Amidala for Halloween. So,
Oh, that's a lot of work from the mom point of view.
oh my gosh, it was
Of course,
so much work. It was so much work, but it was really great. And we did the face and the white, and I guess from a costume standpoint, I think I loved her because I'm just a costume nerd at heart, right? I loved her costumes, and it was all so fanciful and very unrealistic. And I don't know, I loved that, and I love Anakin. He was just so cute.
Yeah, he could have used a few acting lessons, but he is
he was a kid, though, right?
true.
Yeah. So, do you have a favorite character?
I love Princess Leia. I know it's kind of like an expected answer, but I love that she went from a princess to like this badass general, and to see that progression. And she always had a weapon and she could totally defend herself. And I think that was really new when it came out in the 70s. And I wasn't alive when the first few came out. So I kind of grew up seeing this amazing, strong female character. And then they turned her into a general. And I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
She's great.
She absolutely is. And I remember, watching again. I was telling you before that my son Colton is like huge into it. And we were watching all of them and looking at the 3 that came out. I think I was telling you earlier, I was 14 when the first one came out. It came out on my birthday.
That's awesome.
In 1977. So
you were meant to be a Star Wars fan,
I guess. But yeah, how incredibly sassy she was. It was clear that she and Han had a thing, but she was having none of it. She wasn't oh, you need to rescue me. She was doing the rescuing. So
right. Yeah, I think she's great. And I thought it was great how they brought him back.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever thought when they finished, the first 6, if they would continue the story. Then to see her later in life, it's really interesting to see the characters progress.
Yeah.
In real time, sort of. But yeah.
What did you think of the deep fake when they had the image of? I mean, she'd been long gone, and they had her there in the later films. I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah, and I come from an animation background. I study that at RISD and film. I triple majored in film animation and video. So just the sheer kind of technique that they needed to make her so lifelike, but also it kind of hurt your heart a little. I thought it was very sad when and how she died, and being this larger than life character to having kind of a sad death. I don't know. It kind of pulled me out of the story a little bit. It was so jarring. It was like,
Yeah.
what are you doing here? But they needed it for the story. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jennifer's her son was R2D2 one year.
He's now. You could just put him on a trash can, right?
pretty much. What's Tara up to? Hey, I'm sorry, Tara. I sent that. I sent it before I was supposed to because I knew it was going to be late.
The mail
so that it would arrive.
It's such a kerfluffle. I'm wrapping up another book and I'm waiting from things from Norway, and they were sent in late November. And I just track every day and hope and pray that they will eventually end up on my doorstep. So
you would hope. Hey, Terry. So let's look at the patterns. Okay. Those of you who have gotten your book, you've seen it, or maybe you've scoped them out on Ravelry. But let's take a quick look at the patterns. Let's see if this will work. Okay, that is not exactly what I wanted to do. Hang on just a quick second. All right. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to do this one. All right. Much better.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Okay. So first we'll look at yours. I had yours all here. Okay.
That's one of them. Yeah.
This one. This is not the first one I wanted to talk about. Where's the first one I wanted to talk about? Hang on. Sorry.
Palpatine.
Yes, I want to talk about Palpatine. Let's look at this. So this is, whoops. Why is this not coming up? All right. Sorry. Okay, here we go. All right. This is Chancellor Palpatine's scarf.
And you are connected to this pattern.
Yeah.
In a very interesting, not that, you're an evil chancellor, but you had something to do with the yarn in this.
I remember that, I remember you saw the yarn in the shop when you were teaching and you said, ooh, I need this for a project I'm working on. I said, oh, what? And you said, I can't tell you.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful yarn, and you had a beautiful sweater made out of it. And I needed a yarn that had like a black halo to it, but still almost looked like silk without being silk. Because silk can be tricky to knit with, especially accessories, because they tend to droop over time. But I loved this yarn, and it was because of you that I found the perfect yarn.
Oh, too sweet.
Yeah.
You guys will remember that's the I did the Koto sweater in that. I carry this. This is the Katia cotton merino in the ruby color. And I just want to bring up the picture of Chancellor Palpatine in this.
Yeah,
here it is.
He wears this like incredible over vest thing. And that's woven, that's woven silk. So this is a kind of project that we refer to as a deep dive, that it's not overtly Star Wars, and it's almost like a secret project. You might recognize it as such if you're a pretty hardcore fan, but if you zoomed in on that, like over, I don't know what you would call it. It's not a petticoat, like that over vest thing. It almost looks like that could be a cable pattern. So, I that yarn that I bought from you, I spent a lot of time swatching and trying to mimic these cable motifs and turn it into a cabled scarf. Originally, we were talking about a vest, but I don't think someone's going to wear a vest like that. I try with my books to make garments that people will wear in everyday life. Sometimes there might be a few that you could cosplay with, but I don't want the book to be kitschy and all cosplay. So we decided to kind of take a nod from him and this long thing and turn it into a long cabled scarf with that beautiful yarn.
It is lovely. And I think, you could wear it almost as a stole. Let's see, where is the Palpatine?
Yeah, you could easily make that. It's knit the long way. It's not knit back and forth like a traditional scarf. It's knit the long way. So yeah, you would just cast on, more stitches or make it longer, which would end up being wider.
So you cast it on this way. So you knit it.
Okay, yeah, it's a cast on of 406.
Yes.
Sounds like a lot, but it's really no different than knitting it, in short little rows. I think people kind of psych themselves out and think, oh my God, 406 stitches. To me, that's faster to knit the long way. And then you can, add width much more easily than if you had, cast on with this many stitches and it just wasn't wide enough. You have to rip the whole thing out. So
yeah, you do. I mean, you do tend to kind of work that whole row.
Yeah.
So you're working 400 at a time.
It's very satisfying to get to the end of those long rows.
So let's talk about Anakin's Infinity Cal.
This is another deep dive.
Right. I was going to say, did you have to watch the movies just over and over and over again? How did you...
I've seen them over and over again. But yeah, the first thing I do when I know we're going to start a book like this, and I did this with Potter as well, is I watch all of the films. And this one was 9 films because we based it on the original 9 episodes. And he's got this pillow in his room, little Anakin in episode 1. And that exact motif is on the pillow in his room. And then it shows up later when he's with the Queen, if you can see. And It's
Oh
like
yeah.
under his, oh wait, that's the wrong hand. It's like under his coat. Um, and whenever I watch a movie, I am like immediately attracted to the textiles and the costumes and, you know, the pillows or the drapes or whatever. I just always immediately look at those textiles, and I thought that would make a pretty interesting, cool cowl. And I love cowls because they're really hard to lose. But I don't wear scarves because I always lose them or they fall off my neck and I don't notice. So I really liked this as a cowl, and I try to make a lot of the projects unisex as well. Not only just for gift giving, but you know, I don't really like to label things as men's and women's. Some things very clearly are, but things like accessories, it's, you know, anything
Yeah,
goes.
this is really good looking.
Yeah. And you know, he was from a desert planet, so I like that kind of desert vibe. And I really like how they photographed it. It brings that into the story.
Beautiful. Do you hear an echo? I hear an echo.
A little bit.
Oh.
It's not bad though.
All right. Okay. So I wanted to look at the Stormtrooper hat because I love this. I think this is fabulous. And this is so very you know? And I'm always interested in how you look at something that's so very 3D, like a Stormtrooper, and how you kind of take the abstract of that. You know, that's such a gift.
I think it just comes with so many years of color work knitting. And I really like to tell stories with my color work when possible. You know, I do a lot of those. I did like Charlotte's Web mittens and It's a Small World cowls and Little Mermaid and things like that, where I like to be inspired by things that I see. So it takes a lot of tweaking. Charts like this can take a lot of time to get right, especially for something like this. You know, everything had to go through so many stages of approval with Lucasfilm and my publisher. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of opinions and a lot of conversations. So I try to get it right. And they're not knitters. So if I, you know, submit the chart to them, it doesn't, if you're a colorwork knitter, you know that the knit stitch is wider than it's tall. So charts always look like they're almost too stretched out vertically, but when you knit them, they kind of square off. So they didn't, you know, their comment was like, oh, he's too narrow. And it's like, well, let me knit you a swatch. So, you know, there's some back and forth, but it takes a lot of tweaking. But I liked the idea of this kind of like very traditional stranded colorwork hat, except they're the clone troopers, which were the precursor to the stormtroopers. And then they shot it on this like happy tween girl. So I just thought that was kind of funny as well. But
I love it. I love it. I would make this for my son, Colton. I think he would love this. Jennifer said that Matthew has asked for this one.
And it's not hard. You know,
not too
half
hard.
of it is plain stockinette in a solid color.
Right.
And once you get out of the chart, and we did some kid sizing. So with Potter, we were not allowed to do any kid sizing. It was just a Warner Brothers thing. But with this one, where we could did extended well, we always did extended sizing. That's really important to me, that the sweaters and all the garments be size inclusive and go up to about a 70-inch bust. But accessories, you know, not everybody, I have like a weirdly small head with a lot of hair, and my dad has like no hair and a weirdly large skull. So I like the idea of there being a couple sizes. So, you know, everybody can get what they want.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I want to show Amelia's, we'll do that. I wanted to go through yours, but yeah, Amelia, we'll look at that too. So, okay. So wanted to look real quick too at the pillows, because this is fun. Yeah. Let's talk about this one. This looks like a quilt, you know, it's very
it is like a quilt. Yes. It's knit in strips the long way. So instead of having a zillion squares, and it's just garter, so you just switch to the next color. So you have all these very long, skinny strips in garter, and then you mattress stitch them up. This is my son's favorite character. He went through a very hardcore BB-8 phase and is still in it a little bit. And he said, like, well, Mom, you got to have an amazing BB-8 project. And I did not have an amazing BB-8 project. So I thought a lot about it, and I like to do some home deck, and I make a lot of quilts. It's my husband calls it rage quilting, but it's kind of what's gotten me through the pandemic is making quilts, because I can't necessarily, sit with my children and knit something super complicated. And we're in all virtual school, so we are all home together all of the time. But I can stand there and cut fabric, while we're, practicing the violin, or, they're in Zoom class or whatever. So this was kind of an ode to easy patchwork quilt. I taught him how to quilt during the pandemic. So we kind of sit next to each other with our sewing machines, and, the little one plays in the fabric and the other one sews. And so this was like an ode to him and our pandemic sewing and his favorite character. And it's easy. It's all garter.
I love that. It's so cute.
I like that one a lot.
Cute. Yeah, that's very cute. So you have some really cute models. You should put your kids in there.
Well, so that was the plan, but pandemic. So a lot of this book was done during the pandemic. The things were all knit, and right before the lockdown happened, we were supposed to photograph, and then things were unsure about what was going to happen. And so with Potter, we used half, real models, and then half kind of friends and family. And for all of Star Wars, the book is shot in California, where my publisher is. They had to use all family and friends of the art team who had been quarantining together. So now you have to have a COVID compliance coordinator on set.
Oh my God.
And they have a lot more strict rules in California because things are pretty bad there. So they would shoot with like a family, and then, do the distance and make sure everything was okay. So a lot of things were shot with families, which I kind of like anyway, because a lot of families sit down and watch Star Wars together. And I'd much rather have people that look like everyday people than, models. I just think it's kind of unrealistic. So I think it worked out really well.
It totally did. I mean, it's really cute. The kids look like they're having a great time. They don't look.
Yeah, I want to go to that party.
I know, exactly. Don't you? Looks like they have popcorn everywhere.
Yeah, there's all these treats and knitting. It sounds great.
Let's do that. Maybe we should do that at the shop as soon as we can. We'll have a Star Wars knitting party.
Star Wars night.
So let's just talk real quick about these pillows. You said you like to do home deck. These are fabulous. And I was thinking before the book came out that maybe you would do like an R2D2, like a stuffy or something. I love that you did a pillow because it's just such a cute, you can have it out all the time and it's not too kitschy.
It's relatively easy. It's very basic stranded color work, but it's also a lot of duplicate stitch. You could do it in Tarja, but you know me, Ellen, and Tarja and I are not friends, and we're just not going to be friends. And it's okay. You don't have to be friends with everyone. So I kind of cheat that with duplicate stitch. And the backs are just solid. So, we were going to do R2D2. I said, well, you can't do R2 and not do his best buddy.
Right.
So, I like that. I think it's a little unexpected. We do have some toys, but I hope that they're toys that people don't expect. So I don't like to do very obvious things.
Yeah, no, I think this is great. And C-3PO is just so, he's like the guy you just like, sort of like also Jar Jar Binks, everybody hates Jar Jar. I think he's hilarious. He's so well-meaning.
I have very few demands. I like to think that I am very easygoing, but one of my rules was we cannot have any Jar Jar projects in this book. I just can't get behind Jar Jar.
Just no, right?
He shouldn't be a thing.
Oh, but he is a thing. He is a thing. Colton hates him. He's like, oh, I hate that guy.
Yeah, well, he just they made him sound. The whole concept to me is like vaguely racist, and he's weird with his tongue and his ears. There's just too much happening there.
I think he's just such a good soul. He means well. He's just a little bit, crazy, whatever.
He's a special snowflake. Yeah,
he's a special snowflake. Okay, so let's look at a couple. My computer screen is not liking this. All right. I love these.
That's my favorite project. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but that is my favorite project in the book.
Well, I was going to ask you, so yay.
Yeah.
So this is Tanis's favorite project, and I can absolutely see why. Check this out. Look at that. You can see Chewie. I mean, he is right there.
And I actually have those here because I'm going to teach them in a couple weeks, but I think I have like 2 of the garments here. The rest are with the publisher, but yeah, those are, and I like that you have to kind of look at them twice. Like, what is that? Oh my God, Chewie. And I just think they're so clever and classy and a great representation of Chewie.
That, yes, they really capture him. I mean, it's like your clone trooper hat. It completely captures, but not in your face, not over the top. I mean, I would be happy to wear those socks and without looking like I'm wearing a cartoon on my foot, right?
Well, and you could make them higher or even like little shorty ankle socks.
Yeah, you can make thigh-high socks if you want.
That's a lot of Chewie, but you certainly could.
I love them. I think they're fabulous. Oh, this is
I
cute.
love that picture. Yeah.
And there's one of those toys you were talking about. This is actually Chewie.
Yeah. And, we wanted him to be, I don't know if it's around anymore. There used to be a website in the early 2000s called like Cute Overload. And it was all, like kittens on stuffed animals and like just really cute pictures. And we wanted the toys to be cute rather than, look like official toys or kind of, some of the toys are creepy. There's a lot of really creepy Yoda toys. But we wanted them to just look friendly. And, I would show them to my kids. And, if my 3-year-old got excited, I knew that they would be, they would pass the cute test.
They would be a hit.
Snuggle test.
Awesome. All right. What else did I have up here? Okay. I thought this was great. The TIE fighter hat and mittens. Again, such a great representation.
Subtle. And this is slip stitch color work. This isn't actually stranded color work. So, it's one color worked at a time. So if stranded color work is not your jam, this is kind of its more easygoing cousin. And this is Kim Dye's yarn, who has been at your shop, and
we love her.
Fantastic. She's local-ish to me in Virginia, and she's just great.
Yes, very talented. Love her. Which yarn is this? Is this a fingering?
Philo,
is this Philo sock? Nice. Yeah. Yeah, her stuff is fabulous. She's a baker too. So she names all of her bases after breads and pastries. And you get hungry just looking at the yarn.
And she's a big Mandalorian fan. We communicate pretty solely in Baby Yoda memes. And so when I asked her if she would like to be part of this, it's nice to work with people who are as excited as you are.
Yeah.
It makes for a better book for sure.
So this is a hat and mitts, and I love that it's mosaic. I mean, that makes this so easy, guys. This is so just fast. So fun and fast.
Well, and most, half of that is plain stockinette. So you could rock those out in a weekend or two.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That would be fabulous. Too fun. I love those. So what else do I want to show? Okay. I have a horrible thing to admit. I don't even remember this creature.
Yeah, these are the Porgs. And this was another kind of ode to my son who loves the Porgs. And if you read the trivia in the book, they were never really a thing, but where they shot the remote island that Luke Skywalker went to, much later in the series, there were puffins everywhere, and there were so many they couldn't CGI them out. So they decided to turn them into Porgs, so they could just kind of mask them with these little critters, and that's how Porgs came to be.
That's fabulous, fabulous. I think they're adorable. Mandy was
full of useless Star Wars information. Let me tell you,
you do know a lot. I think it's pretty cool. Well, what is it, like you wrote the book or something?
Yeah. And there's more research for this book than any of my previous 10 books. This is the 11th, but the stack of books that I had to read, and I had access to behind the scenes stuff from Lucasfilm and just so much reading. And with Potter, it's one universe and there's a lot of characters, but they all exist in the wizarding world. And with Star Wars, it's a whole galaxy, universe, really. Yeah. So, the names of the planets and which characters come from which planets, which episode was that. There was it was so much reading and so much research, but it makes for a better book.
Oh yeah, we have more source material. Of course, we have to talk about the Pocket Yoda.
I love the Pocket Yoda. He's supposed to be like your conscience in your pocket, kind of giving you advice. So when we announced the book, just the book a few months ago, a lot of people were really excited about The Mandalorian, but the contract for this book with Lucasfilms was for those 9 episodes, no Mandalorian. So they were very specific about not having anything close to Baby Yoda.
Mm-hmm.
So, we did the embroidery around his eyes and he holds a little cane, but it's not Grogu, or I think that's Baby. I mean, everybody calls him Baby Yoda.
Yeah, but it's Grogu.
This is original old school 900-year-old Yoda.
Right.
And you could knit this in a bulky, and size up your needles and make them bigger.
Well, it's clear he's not Baby Yoda because, the thing that makes Baby Yoda is, like all babies, big eyes, and, the big ears and that, that whole, it's like, why is Baby Kermit and Baby Miss Piggy so much cuter than, it's big eyes.
Sure,
and, right. But this is still cute. Yoda's still cute, even at 900 years old and not Grogu. He's still adorable. I wanted to bring up Amanda's, what was it? The Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
Let me see what that is.
This is one of my favorite. I like to do at least one lace shawl. I'd like to have more, but they're tricky to photograph. And,
look at that.
And depending on the story, there just might not be room for a lot of lace. So this one has the Rebel Alliance symbol on her back. That's what it looks like, a phoenix kind of rising from the ashes. And there's, I think, like 1,800 beads in this project.
Oh my gosh. That's right up your alley, Amelia.
It's done with Freya, and it only takes 2 hanks of the gradient and then 1 of the solid. So I like when you let the yarn do the color work for you.
Yeah.
And Star Wars has a very muted palette. It's a whole lot of white and black and gray. So whenever I could sneak a color in there, it was still generally muted. Potter was so bright and poppy. So it was hard to kind of tone it way down. But I think this one is perfect. It's a nice, subtle way to inject some color into it.
Yeah. And Susanna Icy is known for her, her lace stuff. Is that how you say her name?
Yep. And she has, I have 2 books that are finished since this one, and she has something in both of them.
Nice.
And she does lace in a way that I love lace and I'll make shawls, but my brain just doesn't work like that. She does such beautiful things.
She really does.
Great to work with. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's good to know.
I work with good people. Yeah, if they're back for another round, it means they were delightful to work with.
All good. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about like your design process.
Sure.
Like how did you first, what did you design first? Did you just like brainstorm all the possibilities? Did you, it's such a big scope. How do you get a handle on that?
Well, I start by watching all 9 films again in order, not the order they were shot, but in the chronological order of how the story progresses. And I just have a notebook and I take so many notes. And, the beauty of the phone is the camera, right? So I'm taking pictures and making sketches. So I watch them all kind of in a row. And then I might go back and watch them again with just, usually when I watch them all together, we watch them as a family and it's fun. But then I'll watch them, late at night when the kids are asleep and really, really pay attention and kind of make a list of all the main characters because we want to make sure they're all represented. And then some things are very clearly, must-haves to me. Like I love Leia's Hoth snow vest, like we talked about. And, Darth Vader's chest plate is so iconic that had to be in there. And the poster made of the original episode 4, the first film that came out, that poster was a really big deal. So we have some mittens that are, kind of an ode to the poster. Of course, I won't be able to find it because you can never find the one that you want.
Which one is it called?
It's the Galaxy Far, Far Away mitts.
Here we go.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So those are, an ode to the original poster, which, everybody knows is that poster. So I kind of have like a wish list, and then I make a list of my wish list of designers. So it's not just me. These are other designers as well. I think we have 18 designers and 28 projects, because some people like me do more than one. And certain people are known for certain techniques. So like Susanna IC only does lace, and really, really good lace. So I wouldn't ask her to do something cabled, but I might give her a lot of direction and say, I want something for the Rebel Alliance, get me some sketches and some swatches. And then I make a list of projects I want to do as well, but I also reserve a few of my designs for like hole fillers, I call them, because we might bring everything to Lucasfilm. They might say, you're lacking a project for, the Porgs or something. So I know that I'll be coming up with an idea to represent that. So we have a really good kind of well-rounded collection. But there's a lot of back and forth. I go to after the designers. Some I'm really specific with, especially the costume replicas. I ask certain people to do certain things. And then some people it's more, hey, what are your thoughts on Wookiees? And what are you going to do with that? And then some people I just kind of give carte blanche and say, hey, I'd really like you to be part of this book. Do you want to submit a few ideas? And we get this list, and that's always evolving. Sometimes ideas are too similar, or they're not hitting enough of a strong note for the character they're representing. So they might, be swapped out, and then everything goes to Lucasfilms again, and they come back with notes, and some things stay as is, some things are in but with changes, some are flat out no's. And then we know we are going to have 28 projects. So then we kind of go from there. And then I think the hardest part is then I start matching projects with yarn. Yarn it's so important for these projects. And, you were talking about Padme earlier. Half of what she wears are like these flowing silk things. And that's hard to replicate in knitting. You wouldn't do that with like a 100% wool. You would need a bamboo or a silk. But I'm also trying to think practically as well. So like that BB-8 blanket, while I would love for that to be in cashmere, that's just not practical.
What
so
is it knit in? Is it
it's in Barocco Comfort, which is
Perfect.
like my favorite kid yarn because it wears like iron. You can wash it and dry it 1,000 times and it looks brand new. And it's a great price point. So that requires a lot of yarn. So I don't want it to cost $4,000 to make. And then sometimes you might ask a yarn company for yarn support, and they'll say, and I always say, this book will come out in January 2021, and they'll say, that yarn will be discontinued by then, or, we're not sure we're going to keep that color. And there's a lot of shuffling. And it's a huge puzzle. I love puzzles, so it's fun, but it's hard to get all the right yarns for the right projects and make sure the designers are happy with them. I want it to be a good experience for everyone. And I worked at Vogue Knitting, and I've worked for all these publications, and sometimes you were just sent a yarn like, this is not the color I would have chosen. I don't love this yarn. Too bad. That's what it is. So I want to make sure they're happy with what they get. So.
That's really
and
nice.
They also can't be, little Etsy shops. It has to be yarn that is widely available.
Right, because everybody wants to make this.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to make it in that yarn. So to send them to an Etsy shop where there's 2 skeins, it's just not fair in my opinion. So, making sure stuff is widely available.
That's great. So do you say like, okay, we definitely want to have a pair of socks. We definitely want to have a mitten. So you have categories that you kind of have to fill, like some home deck and some sweaters.
Yeah. And, my publisher, they're not knitters. This is only the 2nd knitting book they've ever done. And I did the first one with them. So I'm, educating them with how these things are also made. So it's an interesting thing to say, some people only knit socks, or some people only knit lace. So those have to be represented. And me, I'm the color work queen. So I tend to go heavy on the color work, but I also want to make sure there's cables in there, and there's some garter projects, and there's even a distribution of beginner, intermediate, and advanced as we can get. So there's not just one beginner project and the rest are advanced. It's pretty equal parts, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, because I want people to be able to grow with the book too. And it's really not a huge leap to go from a scarf to a sweater. People stand in their own way and like, oh, I could never knit that. Why not?
Right. It's really just a scarf.
It's in the spring, and you're in your own way. People are psyching themselves out. So I want to say, you can knit this. And so what if you have to rip it out? Everything, life is just a big old classroom anyway. So just try.
Yeah, because what is it? I tell my basketball kid, you miss 100% of every shot you don't take, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So which design did you do first?
I'm trying to think, God, because this was 2 books ago for me. I think I did the Clone Wars hat first because I had to get it out of my system. It's color work, it's corrugated ribbing, it's like everything I love. So I did that, and then after that, I needed unexpected hand surgery. So I, this was a week before lockdown. I had hand surgery, and I couldn't knit. So I had to write all my patterns and farm all the rest of the knitting out, and type the whole book with one hand.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't get to knit everything that I wanted to, but I've got a good army of sample knitters that I trust. So it all worked out.
And they just test it too, right?
Well, yeah. Typically, I don't really do the sweaters just because there's not enough time for me to be knitting 8 garments and writing 210 pages of text. So my stuff generally doesn't need to be sized too much. So I'm pretty confident when I send them off a pattern in the yarn that they won't have any issues. But stuff happens too. They're all good with texting. This might seem weird, or do you mean this as your stitch count? And that's important to have people you can trust, to be your hands when your hands are not quite working the way they should be.
So you don't send out like a pattern call like a lot of it, like Vogue Knitting does. Oh, do you?
Well, it's by invitation only.
Okay.
I do a lot of stalking in like a non-creepy good way on Instagram, and see who's really good at double knitting and who is fantastic with cables. And I keep this kind of running wish list, and people I've worked with in the past, or a lot of it is people I really admire, say like, your work is fantastic. I would love to work with you on this. And that makes for interesting books because sometimes there's repeat people, but a lot of times it's new people. And that's why I've been asked to do solo books so many times. I like to work this way, where you get all these different voices and just a really interesting mix. People see things so differently. So if I say Porg and to 12 different people, they'll come back with 12 different things. So if, I say it to myself, all the projects will be the same. So I like kind of conducting and getting all these ideas and people together to make an interesting and just different kind of book where, it's from all these different voices.
I love that. I think it makes a much better book because not everyone can, or no one can be the expert at everything.
Right.
So find the people that are good at what they do and let them do it. I love that.
And solo books are great too. I like to work this way a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you get more submissions than you could take?
Always. Yep.
Are there any patterns that you were like sad you had to leave out? Can you tell us about that?
There's always some that, when I'm wearing my knitter hat, it's like, oh, this would be so much fun to knit. And the knitters would love this. And we've got to have this in. But my editor might say, we have like 6 Wookiee projects. We've got to, take one out or whatever. So sometimes we compromise, but we're pretty much on the same page. But yeah, some things are hard to let go. And some things are knit and photographed and get cut at the very last minute for one reason or another. So stuff changes, right up till those final files go to the printer. Stuff is in flux as far as I'm concerned.
So if somebody submits a pattern to you, like I remember the gal who did a sluggy bonnet. This was back in the dark ages. I mean, it was like 2005. And she did this bonnet that was supposed to be used in the Harry Potter films, but it wasn't. And then she published it in this other collection, I think.
That was the unofficial
Melanie Fallick. It wasn't even part of the Harry Potter thing. So do the designers, if they don't get in the book, do they own their designs, or when they submit, do you own it, or how does that work? I can't imagine.
if they're not part of the book, then they can do what they want with them.
Yeah.
You do have to be careful in life in general, with copyright infringement.
Yeah.
So if I do a lot of Disney inspired cowls because I used to teach at Disney World every year, and I love Disney. But you got to be really careful with the naming. Like I did a Little Mermaid inspired cowl. It's not called a Little Mermaid. So you just, you have to be careful with that sort of thing because they own the rights, and they can come after you. It's theirs. So I always tell people to be very careful and, read the lawyer speak and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to.
So, yeah, I get that. And I mean, I know it sounds really kind of pissy on their part, but I get it, because if you don't protect your copyright or whatever. So
Right.
I was thinking about this thing, and somebody's going to kill me now that I'm going to say this, but it just cracks me up how like the knitting industry Star Wars is. So I think about all the big companies owned by men, all right, like trying to take over the universe as like the evil empire. And all of us little, diverse, woman-owned businesses, designers, hand dyers and all this. We're like the ragtag rebel alliance. Do you know what I mean?
Well, hopefully it's changing.
Oh, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like the whole world's kind of that way too. But, originally men were the knitters and women were not allowed to knit. It was something that the peasants did. If you were women, only the men in the knitting guilds could do it. So it's interesting. I lecture a lot about the history of knitting and how knitting started versus where it is now, as we've come quite a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell people we get a lot of crocheters who say, they feel not as included or
Right.
whatever, looked down upon. And I was telling this one lady, I remember reading the social history of American knitting. I also like the history of it, but that, crochet was what the aristocracy did because it was such a decorative. It wasn't quotidian. It wasn't useful stuff. It was, decorative, and the way you held the hook was such a way to demonstrate your beautiful hands or whatever.
Right. Well, that's fairly recent. That's like Victorian.
Yes. Yeah. Like
and crochet is older than knitting. So
yeah. Isn't it funny though, the perspectives and how they change?
Right. Well, and it's funny because the book came out yesterday, and the feedback has been so positive and a really nice bright light in a pretty dark time. We're kind of coming up on a year of being inside. And the one comment was like, where's all the crochet? It's like, come on, guys. But it is a knitting book. So, they might do a crochet version down the road. Who knows?
Well, I think crochet pretty much owns the amigurumi and all of the creatures. I mean, I have all those kits in the shop. The baby Yoda kit or the Yoda kit or whatever, and knitting or crocheting the Star Wars. I mean, crochet is the way to go if you're going to make a little creature.
Right, anything circular. Yeah. Just so much more conducive to that because of the parabola and how the math works out. But yeah, it's, who knows what they've got up their sleeves. I know they're planning on doing a lot more books and a lot with me too. So it's exciting. They're a great publisher.
Good. Very cool. So what's next for Tanis Gray? I can't possibly be the end of the line. I know.
Never. I won't stop till I'm dead. I have 2 more books that are done that are coming out. I think one comes out in the fall and then one comes out this time next year. And I'm taking a little break, maybe about a month or so. Then I'm going to start up another one. Because, the fun never stops, and teaching a lot of virtual teaching, which is really interesting because you might have a student from, across the country. I took a knitting class in Spain a couple weeks ago, and, you might not necessarily ever have the chance to do that. So I'm, learning to teach online versus teaching in person is interesting, and you have to be creative, but a lot of teaching, a lot of these kind of virtual book tours and a lot of rage quilting, as my husband says. And, I told you I got into sharpening scissors and knives during the pandemic, which makes me sound like a crazy person, but I quilt so much and my scissors were always dull. and I was spending a fortune on scissors. I thought, this is so stupid. I can sharpen these. So I got like a diamond sharpening stone and taught myself how to sharpen my scissors. And all my neighbors drop off their scissors now, but it's like knitting. It's very repetitive and very satisfying to have nice scissors that actually cut. But I'm taking a little quilting break, and I learned how to do sashiko and bargello and all these other things I always wanted to do, when I had time. And there's no time like the present. So it's been interesting to expand my crafting horizons while also doing what I love and, creating these books completely from home in a pandemic. It's changed how we do things, but not all that much. But yeah, I mean, I never stop. I got to be in constant motion. So.
Did I hear you say that you took a class from Spain, or you taught a class?
Yeah, no, I took a class in.
What did you take a class in Spain?
It was on color work and braids. And in all fairness, I didn't learn anything, but I really admire the designer, and I wanted to take a class with her. And I had a feeling, I had to get up at 4 a.m., which was fine. And I had a feeling, you're probably not going to learn much, but there's so many designers that I admire, and I just want to take a class with them. And it was a fun experience.
Yeah.
I was done by the time everyone was awake, so it worked out.
I think you probably always pick up little something. I mean, and at least just to make that connection. I know that we have had you in the shop, and there have been people who've taken classes with you simply because they want to take a class with Tanis, which is so cool.
Oh yeah. It's fun, especially now, it's really interesting to take a class in a country and then, walk out my door and feed the kids breakfast. I would never be able to do that. So I try to find the silver linings. It's a hard time for all of us, but I think crafting has really, really helped. Anybody who crafts, it makes it a little easier. I think crafting is good for the soul, and, having a new book to look forward to is always exciting too. But I hope all these people who've decided to learn how to knit or, can or whatever people are into, bake bread, I hope they continue it when we're out of this, because it is good for the soul.
Absolutely. Knitting is totally good for the soul, and just creating something with your hand.
Absolutely.
I write a lot about this, in the blog. It's just about having perceived control and, creating a tangible thing, which, we haven't been doing. So,
well, and making things too. I love that, my neighbor, the guy across the street, just had heart surgery, and he was complaining about always being cold. So like, to make a hat and then give it to him, he's happy, it benefits him, but just the art of making something and giving it to someone that's the best part in my mind. I love that it's a useful craft.
Yeah. You're sharing so much time. It's, it's a tangible representation of your time. Yeah.
Priceless.
So, Mama Andamika wanted you to talk about your Stitches at Home classes. Is that something you have?
Yeah, I'm teaching at Stitches, which, right now is all virtual. So you can go to my About page on my website, and all the classes I'm teaching are there. So I think I'm teaching 2-color cables and regular cabling.
Fun. Yeah. So I think maybe we'll have to have some virtual Tanis classes at Crazy for You. I think that would be a lot of fun.
And hopefully in person again soon, once we're all vaccinated. So.
Sure. But, in the meantime, we'll take what we can get, right?
I think we're waiting for a while. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we're almost out of time. I've run way over, but it's always so much fun to talk to you. I miss you so much. And I can't wait to have you in the shop again. And congratulations on this most wonderful, wonderful achievement. Yeah, you're just so humble, you go ahead, say, yeah, it's awesome.
It is exciting. Yay. But, it's not a solo effort. There's a huge team of people behind me, and I'm always, really happy to toot their horn, because they don't always get, my editor and the photographer and, all the other designers and the yarn companies. It's my name's on the cover, and I do most of the work, but it is a team effort. So
absolutely.
It's important to acknowledge that. So
no, absolutely. And you do. And it is, you can't do it all yourself, but you were the one, you were the leader. You took the leap of faith.
The gold leader, red leader, gold leader. Yeah. That my kids have been calling me. gold leader.
Gold leader.
Instead
Okay.
of mommy, I've become gold leader.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been called worse.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And thank you,
Yeah, thanks,
Tanis, for being
everyone.
here. We'll do this again. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sweetie. Take
All
care.
right, take care.
All
Stay
right.
safe, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.